Well, typically the first thing we want to do is just take our sales transaction file and do some summarization on it. So we'll go into our analysis up at the top on our menus, and we're going to do some summarization, the first one that's on there. And it says, okay, what do you want to summarize and how do you want to summarize it? Well, we want to summarize, we don't want to summarize by invoice number, we want to summarize by customer number. So we'll click on the arrow at the side and we'll pick the customer number. And that's all. We don't want anything within customer number, so we can leave the next one. As far as the fields that we want to total, there's no point in totaling the invoice numbers of the salesman, so we'll just total the amount. Okay. What it's going to do for us is it's going to create a separate database file with a single record for each one of those customers, showing the total amount per customer. We could, if we want, include the percent, but in actual fact we're quite happy with what we've got. So I'm going to change the name down at the bottom to summarized. Instead of summarization, I'm going to make it summarized transactions. Obviously you can make it named anything you want. I'm using summarized transactions simply because that keeps me in line when I want to clear everything out before the next training course we run. Okay. If I say OK now, we can see there's my customer numbers, there's the number of records, and there's the amount summarized. If I want to look at the detail on that, there's no point looking at that one because there is only one. But I could come down to record number 11 where there are 7 of them. And if I want to see which 7, simply clicking on that will show me the 7. So I can see the invoice numbers for those 7 for that customer, transaction date, how it was paid, who the salesman was, customer number, product code, etc. I could, if I want, print it, but in this case I'm finished with it, so I'll just say done. If I wanted to look at that one down here, if I simply click on it, there are all of the ones for that particular customer, customer number 11600, and you can see that this one is buying a mixture of product codes, product code 3, product code 5, etc. If I look at the one on its own, I'm only going to get the one record because that's all there was. Okay. We're looking at the summarized transaction file at the moment. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask the system to create some field statistics for me. And if you were on the earlier ones, you'll remember that all I have to do is go over to the Properties window and simply click on Field Statistics. It says they're not available for all fields. Do I wish to create statistics for all fields which don't have them at the moment? Yes, I do. And you can see it's created a total net value for customer number. Well, that doesn't make sense, so we'll get rid of that one. Total of number of records, that doesn't really make sense either, so we'll get rid of that one. Because what I'm really interested in is the amount summary. Okay. And I can see there some critical information. I can see the net value. I can see the absolute value is the same as the net value. Right away that tells me there are no negatives. The absolute value is the total of negative plus positive as if they were all positives. It's the complete number between the lowest and the highest. I've got 303 records. That ties with what I have down here on number of records. I've got 1 0 item. That could be interesting. If I click on that 1, there's my 0 item. That's the customer number. They've got 1 record, and so far they seem to have bought 0. There's my positive values, my negative values. If I had any negatives, I could click on there and immediately see which ones were negative. 302 positives, 303 valid, so I've got positives plus 0. plus 1 0. The average value, the maximum value. Ooh, there's someone with a big invoice, 3 million. That's interesting. That's because he's got 35 orders that he's placed already. So that might make sense. I'm quite happy with that. And I can have a look at all of these, and I can have a look at the sample, standard deviation of sampling, etc. Not much value at the moment, but when we come into the webinar that looks at statistical sampling, that would be critical. Okay, so when we're happy on that, I'm going to move out of field statistics and go back to data. Simply clicking on data takes me straight back to it. I'll pick a record. I'll pick that one again, number 7. But this time I'm going to right-click. And when I right-click, I can say, show me the field stats. And it says these are all the fields that we've got. Numeric fields, date fields, etc. What do you want to show? Well, I'm only interested in numeric. So I want to show the net value. I'll show the absolute values. I'll show the minimum value. And I'll show the maximum value. Just those 4. And if I say OK now, it comes up at the top. And again, I can pick up, same as I would in anything in Windows, I can pick that up and slide it out. And I can see there's my my absolute value, number of records, etc. Maximum, minimum, net values, the lot. Okay. When I'm finished with it, I can remove it again simply by right-clicking any record and say that I want to clear off all of those field statistics. So I'll go into Show Field Statistics, and this time I'm going to say Clear All. That's them gone. Okay. Everyone happy with that, hopefully. Again, on our analysis, I can go into analysis and I can choose, instead of summarization, I can choose stratification. And this time I can stratify the information, and the field I want to stratify on of these ones is going to be the number of records. And you can see up here we've got an increment. So I'm going to say make that 10,000, 5,000. Whoops, not 50,000, 5,000. And that will plug it in there. And if I then take that down to row 5, it's going to stratify my data on 1 to 5,000, 5,001 to 10,001, etc. I can then change that on 6 and make that 25,000 instead of 5,000. So it's now going to go from 25,000. Let me change that. I want to remove that one. And now if I go down to here, you'll see I'm 25,000 to 50,000. And I'll take it from there all the way down to number 12, because I know that's the highest that I'm going to come across. Again, I'm going to create a separate field, and I'm going to give it the number numeric stratification. And say OK. I must select at least one numeric field for each stratum. So what I've done is I've told it I want to stratify on that. I've told it what the ranges are going to be, but I haven't told it what I want to actually look at. And what I want to look at is the sum of the amounts. So it's kind of clever. If you try and make a mistake, or if you accidentally make a mistake, it will tell you you've slipped up. So now we have our full classification, and I can see it's all sitting in there. If I want to see it in a bit more clarity, I can go up to my button bar and look at print preview. I'm not going to print it because then I'd have to hold it up to the camera and let you see it. But that's my print preview. So there's my summarized transactions, stratified on number of records, 12 strata specified. These are the limits on them, and it shows me where the bulk of them are sitting. They're fairly low items, low value items, and there's nothing above that. Okay. If there was anything below 0, if there were any negatives, it would come up as a lower limit exception. If there was anything over 200,000, it would come up as an upper limit exception. But in actual fact, it's telling me that everything I've got is sitting 1 to 5,000. I don't have any customer who's placed more than 5,000 transactions. So I'll close that down.